inaugural session, one part of the inaugural session is come to conclusion. And normally in conferences of this type, inaugural sessions are there, not ceremonial, but they are expected to set a context to the discussions that follow. I clearly see the speakers in the inaugural session have adequately set the context for the discussions to follow. I would take you through some of the important points that were made by the speakers, and I hope that will be deliberated through the panels to follow. Initially, Ramaraj Garu has set the context and said that what are the kinds of panels that are there in this conference, and very clearly said that the conference is discussing the sustainable future and conducting a net zero dialogue, and at the same time discussing the balancing sustainability and profitability. Subsequently, Maurya Garu from Greenco, the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Director of Greenco, he very clearly outlined one thing: the way the world tackled COVID, okay, that gives us hope, a clear, not only hope, a clear possibility that we will be able to tackle and put our resources in place to address the climate change. I think that gives us many times there is a pessimism around whether we will be able to go through this transition, whether we will be able to put our resources together for this transition, etc., etc. He clearly set the context and the hope. And also, I am also a part of Greenco. The story of Greenco over the last few years also gives us a hope that as it's possible, not only to have firm renewable energy at a price comparable to a new coal-based power plant, an affordable, firm, dispatchable renewable energy. And out of that, we can also decarbonize significant content of the electricity from the AM Greens plan you are seeing, that we can have green fuels, green chemicals, green materials, etc., from the green hydrogen that is produced from the dispatchable, affordable renewable energy. So, there are two messages that came to me, which are also happen to be messages of integrated reports of Greenco. One says it's possible. The first message is it's possible to do it. The second message is that making green sustainable, making green socially and environmentally acceptable is possible. I think these two messages are coming out very clearly. I think as we go along, we will deliberate it further in the conference. And Maurya called for a decade of action. He said that this is the decade where we have to act and accelerate our action towards energy transition and industrial transformation. And there are already mature technologies, and he called upon political and financial sector leadership, okay, to address some amount of glitches that are there, but the technologies are mature enough. Okay, we should be able to deploy, we should be able to accelerate the climate action. I think that point I think this will be discussed further as we go along. And basically he called for a nudge from multilateral institutions that are absolutely necessary. Following that, the comprehensive coverage by Ms. Wendy Werner actually set the context for the overall conference. Okay, she of course said that sustainability is no longer optional, and she focused on extended producer responsibility and brought the focus to the circular economy that we need to address, and also outlined the IFC's focus that has always been there around combining profitability and sustainability through their various operational rules, etc., and performance standards. I think many of our companies, including Greenco, we all follow the IFC's performance standards and in all our investments. And further, I think Wendy also emphasized on sustainability linked loans. Okay, that is, I think, even though started from the multilateral financial institutions like IFC, I think more and more people are looking at the sustainability linked loans. Something similar to impact investing kind of an activity, but these are much more popular and operational. And she also talked about ecosystem approach to sustainability. And I think one important thing she also added, I think it will be discussed in the panels, is the agri focus. I think we need to look into the possibility of making our agriculture system more efficient and more carbon neutral, and also providing healthy food to the populations. And another important point that was emphasized, which will also be discussed in the panels, is the inclusion. Though there was a specific item on gender inclusion, but overall she said that this development cannot be anything other than inclusive development. A sustainable development cannot be anything other than inclusive development. And going further, Eric initially started talking about the individual, what individual needs to do, right? Governments are started doing whatever they are doing, but the individual also should take a role in the whole thing. And this individual part is also emphasized by Government of India in its LIFE program. In the COP26, they brought forward the LIFE, and the LIFE actually talks about the individual and the more important, the consumption patterns. And of course, he pointed out how Finland is progressing both on addressing the climate targets and global warming, and also overall sustainable development, and especially the inclusion. He pointed out that India will definitely become the third largest economy. India will definitely achieve its $5 trillion target, etc., etc. But he also called upon all of us that development should be an inclusive development, and that development should be sustainable. I see that the Government of India and the people, we are all, and the business leadership, we all look forward to actually having sustainable development, and there is a significant focus. Government of India also has a significant focus on looking at sustainable development as an opportunity than as a imperative or a compulsion or a regulatory compliance. Okay. More importantly, Eric also talked about what happened at Baku.
I apologize for being a little late. Sometimes things are not in our control. Thank you very much for inviting me to such an important conference, which is talking about transition to green energy and making our country, our growth sustainable. So I also thank other panelists who are there on the dais, Mr. Bondara Raghavendra Garu, Chairman and Managing Director, Avasa Engineering Limited, Mr. A.K. Saxena, Senior Director, Electricity and Renewables, TERI. We have Mr. Prasant Tiwari, Chief Sustainability Officer, Amber Raju. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone who presented this. It's a new buzzword that growth or development which we are having should be sustainable. Means our new generation should not blame us, for the future problems. That is basically the meaning of, sustainable development. How do you do the sustainable development is the I think issue for which we are all sitting here. What should we do to make our growth sustainable? We should grow, but we should grow in a manner that we can sustain it for a longer term. I think we are already the fastest growing economy. That's what my understanding is. We are already the fastest growing economy. Our rate of growth is fastest in the world, and we are already 5th largest economy in the world. And I think we are going to move to 3rd largest economy maybe by 2030 or maybe 35 or something like that. Now, presently, if you want to be sustainable, one is, there are many other aspects, this pollution, food, but we'll talk about energy today because we are sitting, I am from energy sector, so we'll talk about energy. The focus is on green energy, everybody's talking about green energy, reduce the carbon footprint. That is what everybody is talking about, and we are also talking about the same thing. That is what we also feel that is the future course of action for us. Telangana is already a leader in the solar energy. In last 10 years, we have done quite reasonably well so far as development of solar power is concerned. But in times to come, the focus is going to be more. We are going to come out with a policy. Our Honorable Chief Minister, our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister has spoken about it earlier, that we are going to come out with a renewable energy policy where we will focus on around 20,000 megawatts of energy by renewable energy by 2030 to meet our increasing demand as projected by the Central Electricity Authority. So we are going to concentrate on various technologies of renewable energy. Solar is there, wind is there. Then we are also talking about this pumped storage. We already have pumped storage in our existing hydel projects like Sri Salem and Nagarjuna Sagar. But we are also going to go to a new kind of PSPs like where there is no existing reservoir, there is no existing river stream, which are absolutely off-stream kind of thing. That is also we are going to talk about in our policy. We are also going to talk about geothermal, which is though they say the potential is huge, but we don't know as of now. But in Singareni collieries, we have just started 20 some sort of kilowatt of geothermal project. We have just started to understand, where are we, how we can do it, what is the potential kind of this thing. If that is good, I think Telangana is also going to work on that. We are also talking about floating solar. We have already experimented it in Singareni collieries, abundant mines. Even NTPC has also done in the Ramgundam plant. They have a floating solar power plant. We are also talking about green energy. We will talk about green energy also in the green hydrogen in the policy, which is also an opening kind of field. We don't know exactly where we are going to go, but things have started. I think just now the speaker was mentioning about that some green hydrogen pump outlet has come in Ladakh somewhere. I was just hearing. So this is this is something new, something good, and if that is workable, I think hydrogen will open a different kind of energy transition in our country. Once we are able to make it useful, we are able to make it cost effective. Because any energy source will work only when it is cost effective. If it is very costly, if the capital cost is very high, it is not going to work in our country. Even though the cost of operation may be very less, but if the initial cost is heavy, it is going to be difficult. So we have to work towards the transition where the cost is affordable, people like it, people feel comfortable with it, then only they will. So these are the things, as of now we are thinking of in Telangana, and I think very soon we are going to launch the policy. Before that, we will also planning to have a stakeholders consultation. We will take inputs from all the industry leaders as to what kind of policies will be there to make it viable, to make it workable. So these are the things we are planning in Telangana, and there are a lot of other things in the policy which I cannot speak as of now because that is in the dark stage. Various kinds of incentives and procedural simplifications and all these things will be there. But apart from that, I am saying the focus where we are going to work on this in this from today onwards, how we are going to work on, that's what I have just spoken. There are some things which are already there in prevalence. This e-vehicle is already there in the country, which is, I think, the new generation is buying EV like anything. In fact, our government has just come out with a policy where we have exempted the registration tax, from the EV vehicles. It was earlier 10,000 vehicles, which was over. Then our government took a decision that there will not be any taxation on. If you buy an e-vehicle, there will not be any road tax, or sort of a registration tax or RTA tax, whatever you call it. It will not be there. It is unlimited now. So to promote that, we have done that. We are also talking about, as of now, I think our EV charging stations are not, sufficient, not up to the mark. We have very less number of EV charging stations, maybe less than 1,000. So I think that is also going to be our focus, to increase the number of EV stations in our city or in our state. So we are working on how we can, make it more and more viable. Even the government land, wherever it is available, how we can give it to the prospective investor at a sort of fixed kind of rate. So we are working on that in the policy, and I think very soon you will come to know. And we will also go in a path of this green energy, which will make our growth very, very sustainable. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
There are certain disappointments. India also had disappointments. Europe also had certain disappointments. But significant progress has been made on carbon markets and market mechanisms. And these are very, very important, as Maurya said, that even though on the renewable side we have already achieved the viability, on the molecule side and many other aspects, and even including the storage, there is still a viability gap. And this viability gap can only be funded initially by a carbon price. And Baku has set all mechanisms in place for an international carbon market. That's an important progress. But one thing that FICCI pointed out at Baku also is that for Article 6, the market size is not very big. So the market size has to be acted upon. And after the global stock taking, all of us have to revise our NDCs. And when we revise our NDCs, a certain percentage of NDCs should be reserved for Article 6 so that the climate action can be extended and deepened into the developing nations like India or many other countries, etc., to take climate action and to take action in building up these spaces like green molecules and carbon capture, utilization, and storage, and sort of net zero agriculture, etc., etc. Lot of such things can happen. I think there is enough that has been said, and very structured way context has been set, and that will be wonderful for all of us to consider and discuss that in the panels. And we had the vision from setting the context from the business leadership and the governmental leadership and financial sector leadership. But we also will have possibly one more session. I understand that the organizers told me we will also have one more session where the political leadership also will tell us what are they looking at, how are they looking at sustainability and profitability. I think that will set the complete context, the overall context for the conference. And thanks a lot, all of you for setting this context. Thanks a lot, all of you, for this patience. And once again, I thank the organizers of FICCI for putting all this together. I look forward to a very productive one full day session. Thank you. Thanks.
What India shall do when it becomes richer, of course it's for this country's democratically elected leaders to decide how to steer the ship. But I believe that it's evident that all Indians will benefit from the growth. The education level will rise, poverty will decrease. But the big chance India has now is to improve sustainability, not only to grow, but to grow in a sustainable way. When discussing sustainability and international cooperation, one sector to be stressed here more than any others maybe is the climate change, because we all understand that we really need international cooperation because the question of global warming and melting polar ices, they do not recognize national borders. We cannot look at this question from national lenses only. We really need international cooperation. India, under the present government, has been quite active at the international level. Finland recognizes the initiatives that India has made, like the International Solar Alliance and the International Biofuel Alliance, and we are considering memberships in these. Finland, for its part, has been active in establishing the Finance Ministers' Coalition for Climate Change. In conclusion, India is a global power, often aligned with the global south. Finland, a small, rich country in Northern Europe, deeply rooted in Western cultures and structures, but we have much to give each other, much to discuss, and to cooperate, both at the corporate level and at national levels. We need each other because only together can we make this world a better place. Thank you.
Honorable Consul General, Consulate General of Finland, Mumbai, Ms. Wendy Wenger, Indian country head IFC, International Finance Corporation, Group of World Bank, Mr. Maurya Paida, Group Chief Operating Officer and Executive Director, Greenco Group, and Dr. P. Rambabu, Co-Chair, FICCI Committee on Environment and Climate Change, also from the Greenco Group. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to welcome you all to the FICCI Conference on Sustainable Future, the Net Zero Dailogue, Corporate Strategies for Balancing Sustainability and the Profitability. We gather here today at a critical moment of our collective history. Climate change is no longer a distant challenge. It's an immediate reality affecting lives, economies, and ecosystem worldwide. This conference serves as a platform to confront these challenges head-on and explore viable strategies and achieve net zero emissions while ensuring the business viability. Our theme today, balancing both sustainability and profitability, underscores the vital synergy required between the environmental stewardship and the economic growth. The conference structure is built today to ensure a meaningful engagement with expert panel discussions and keynote discussions to the interactive workshop. These sessions aim to offer not only ideas but tangible knowledge sharing, collaboration, and action planning. We are honored today to have the industry leaders, policy makers, and sustainability pioneers joining us for this great initiative to share their expertise. This will help us to set the tone for robust discussions, innovative thinking, and actionable takeaways. Thank you very much for being here on this important initiative. Let us make the most of these sessions to create sustainable future for all of us. Thank you very much.
I am most honored to be invited here today from FICCI, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity for the discussion amongst all of the leaders of industry here today. This is a critical juncture, as Maria already highlighted, that the question of whether or not climate is going to impact us is already a foregone conclusion. We see it every day in our communities here in India and as well as globally. And we see that businesses worldwide are also reevaluating their role in addressing these climate and global challenges. So today we're here to discuss this timely question, really essential to the future of our economy, our individual businesses, but also our societies and our planet. In the past, sustainability and profitability were often seen as opposing forces, and businesses were traditionally driven by a pure focus on maximizing shareholder value, and sometimes at the expense of environmental health and social equity. But today we live in a world where these two objectives must coexist, and I'm sure that all of you as business leaders have that kind of tension in your own discussions internally. But now the key question is how we can align sustainability with the economic goals of business so that they reinforce rather than undermine each other. And the IFC, as an international institutional investor, we're part of the World Bank Group. We see sustainability in the environmental, social, and governance sphere as a core part of any financial sustainability as well. So you can't really, in the modern world, have one without the other. Let me give a few examples why sustainability is no longer an optional agenda for any corporation. First is market demand. We see that customers, particularly younger customers, but I think all of us, increasingly favor brands and products that prioritize environmental and social responsibility and want to understand the full impact of our purchases. Second, the regulatory landscape is also changing quickly. I think all of us are very much aware of that, and earlier before the event started, we were just discussing around the EPR and the requirements around recycling that have come into place here in India in the last few years. So governments are increasingly enforcing stricter standards, and India is very much amongst that group of governments. Investors are also placing a very strong emphasis on sustainability metrics alongside financial metrics. As I mentioned, IFC, we are directly a commercial investor, and we're just one example, and we've been doing this for our 60 years of our existence. But I think we often see now very much pure private capital focusing just as much on environmental and sustainability indicators. And that is, the reason is because of the last point, is that operational resilience. So any business that is not considering the impact of floods, heat, also the regulation and the requirements of a growing challenges to the climate is not going to have clear understanding of the business operational risks as well. So I think these are the sort of risk management, but also opportunity challenges that any business must undertake in integrating sustainability into business strategy. Finally, I just want to highlight a few emerging trends that I think will be touched on in the discussion today in some ways. One is the need for more circular economy models, looking at how all of the inputs are then reutilized, reused, because a circular economy is something that is inherently important for us. If we constantly are creating more waste, then we are constantly building a bigger problem for ourselves in the future. The second is green financing and new kind of structures that are providing more green financing. This is happening at the domestic financial sector here in India, but also globally. Mind you, of course, we all pay attention to the news, and COP, there's a feeling there's not enough green financing, but yet there still is, here in India for sure, a strong emphasis from many financial institutions to finance green enterprises and green projects. And this is very much backed by the Reserve Bank of India. Looking at a broader space, we see things like sustainability-linked loans is an important financial product that is becoming quite important when it comes to sustainability. And IFC has worked on many sustainability-linked loans in sectors, a variety of sectors, some of them the hard-to-abate sectors that Maria mentioned, like the paint sector with Grasim. We've also done sustainability-linked loans in infrastructure space as well as in real estate with Mindspace, with Capital Land. So increasingly we see that sustainability-linked lending and sustainability-linked bonds are an important financial product and a financial tool that can incorporate the desired targets and metrics of the particular company. So it's not putting one size fits all into sustainability. It's providing a framework that a company chooses what its own sustainability pathway is and its own sustainability metrics, and achieving those will give a benefit from the financier. So that's just one example, but green financing has a plethora of new options that are coming into the mainstream. The third trend that I think is extraordinarily important, may not be immediately obvious, but is digital transformation. We all see here in India over the last decade, 15 years, the important changes that have happened based on the strong digital integration into all parts of society. So using digital transformation will be increasingly important in also the sustainability agenda. Leveraging AI, the Internet of Things, IoT, and things like blockchain to optimize both energy efficiency as well as resource tracking will improve resource utilization, and increasingly that's also how both financiers, government, and buyers will track sustainability metrics. An ecosystem approach and more collaboration. I think that's obviously why we're all here today. I'm sure there are representatives from many different types of companies, but industry-wide collaborations are very important in enabling progress to sustainability goals that not only one single entity can do this by yourselves. So examples around how to green value chains and supply chains is very important in order to open up more opportunities, for instance, for Make in India to export outside the country. Other examples like green buildings and green materials, which I think will also be discussed here today, are one way that an ecosystem approach can really make a big difference. A short word about the International Finance Corporation, which I represent here in India. The IFC is the private sector part of the World Bank Group, and our objective is to provide private commercial capital with a development objective. So we both are aiming for profits and commercial basis, but also for development objectives. And as I said, we started doing this 60 years ago, but now I think it's very much embedded into the normal approach to financing and the private sector. Since 2018, IFC has invested and mobilized more than $70 billion just in climate finance alone globally. And we achieved a record climate financing last year of around more than $9 billion in long-term finance for climate. We look at many great examples coming out of India. India is IFC's largest country portfolio with more than $9 billion committed portfolio of investment here in private companies. And we, last year, did almost more than $1 billion in climate financing in our own account. So we know what it means to find and invest in strong sustainability leaders. And we are very committed to seeing those sustainability leaders and green projects grow here in India. I think I will skip over renewables since Maria covered it very nicely, but we are a strong investor in the renewable space, and we're also very pleased to be looking to partner with GreenCo. Another Hyderabad-based company is a major equity partner for us, which is Fourth Partner Energy, which was one of our largest equity investments last year across IFC globally. So we see renewables as a major space for growth coming up across all geographies, and increasingly a look at new technologies as well to achieve round-the-clock fully renewable power. But I'll talk about a few other examples that are relevant. We also look at investment in agriculture and agricultural innovation, and I think this is an area that's sometimes overlooked when we think about sustainability and climate impact, but obviously has a critical importance both in delivery of safe food, but also in employment and inclusion. We have worked with the government of UP over the past few years, focusing on accelerating the modernization of agriculture, particularly through ag technology, and we have a program that works with more than 30,000 farmers based on crop monitoring, sensor-based crop monitoring, to better understand what crops are being grown and what kind of inputs and cultivation they require. This will both also help transition to more climate resilient crops and more climate smart agricultural practices. A final area that I want to highlight is on inclusion and more inclusive business models in employment and in operations. And IFC has a strong focus on gender inclusion. We work with many of our companies and clients across all verticals on how to include more women in their both suppliers, but also in their employees and in their leadership. And last year we partnered with JICA, UN Women, and ILO to launch what's called the India Gender Collaborative, which is a collaborative of around 50 companies so far who are making specific gender targets in their own operations and committing to those gender targets. So I feel that the inclusion aspect is also a very important part of sustainability. Again, making sure that both the private sector, the corporate sector, as well as government and regulation are delivering for the entire population. These examples just give an idea of kind of the localized approach that we need to see, as well within the global frameworks that we hear about all the time. And the role of sustainability is important in ensuring that your companies and businesses are future-proofed. So leadership in this area is probably one of the most important ways to set the future for any business. As we deliberate on these strategies and more specific sector focus today, let me leave you with a stronger idea of the vision for the future. We should together aim for businesses that thrive with sustainability, not in spite of it, and where in every case, in every industry, we see that a product is providing both well-being to people as well as to the planet. And to achieve this sort of action, we need both a collective ecosystem from business, the private sector leadership like FICCI, and government as well. So I'm very pleased to be here for this dialogue, and I applaud FICCI for the topic. Focusing on sustainability as a business imperative is very forward-looking, and the vision is that this should be a core part of the future. Thank you.
Mr. Eric, Ms. Wendy, Ramraj Garu, Rambab Garu. Right on the morning, I have a prepared speech, but I thought I'll talk to you all with a few pointers and things for you to think about and ponder on to this whole discussion today we are part of. Very briefly about Greenco Group and AM Green, the two companies that I represent. We are one of India's largest renewable energy transition solutions company. We have an operational portfolio of about 10 gigawatts of RE, in under construction portfolio of about 100 gigawatt hours of long duration energy storage. And when I talk about AM Green, we're pioneering the transition to the hydrogen economy. So we have projects of about 5 million tons of green ammonia under construction across the country. But we are based out of Hyderabad. A little introduction for Ms. Wendy and Mr. Eric. I'm happy to say that we work closely with IFC in terms of our energy transition projects that we're looking at. And Mr. Eric, we've become very close to Finland. We have acquired a Finnish company called Kempolis Oy, which is a 2G bioethanol technology company. And when we talk about energy transition, there are two pathways. One is the bio pathway and one is the green electron pathway. I'll spend a little time on sustainability, how it is important. Today morning I woke up to a paper article saying that yesterday was the hottest day in Mumbai in 16 years. Yesterday was also unusually hot in Hyderabad. At the same time, we're seeing typhoons in the US, heavy rainfalls in Tamil Nadu. So extreme weather and climate change is upon us. It's an undeniable fact, and sitting here today morning, I think what has changed over the last 5-7 years is the effects of them are very visible, and the transition has to happen. One clear metric, COVID was a big testing time for the entire world, and the global economies printed about $9 trillion in those 18 to 24 months so that the global economies can come out of the COVID turmoil. Another number that we should remember is the estimated amount of money required from the global economies to ensure energy transition is only $23 trillion. So 9 is something we have spent for COVID, and 23 is what is required for the energy transition. So I very honestly believe that the global leadership, whether it's at COP or the G20 level, there's significant traction towards energy sustainability. It's very important that conferences like this, thought leaders come together at a state level and at a national level to see how this sustainable transition can happen. Another metric I want to put about is the global, when we talk about energy, is a 200 billion annual market, out of which electricity is only about 12 billion. So when we talk about energy, electricity is a small part of it. Electricity is where transition is easy. We're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about electric mobility, the transition is going to happen smoothly. But the hard to abate sectors like your steel, aluminium, your cement, all your mining, metals, minerals production, these are the hard to abate sectors for which globally solutions have to be found so that significant carbon abatement can happen in these sectors. At both Greenco and AM Green, we are working both in the green electron space and the green molecule space, where we use our round-the-clock renewable energy through long duration storage to produce green hydrogen. Then you convert that into green electrons, green molecules. What is possible is today with energy, I see that the theme is profitability and sustainability. Today, renewable energy is the cheapest form of new energy anywhere in the world, especially in the global south, which have the land and the resources available to drive this global transition to a sustainable future. I strongly believe that India will take a leadership role in this global energy transition, both from a sustainability angle and being the lowest cost producers of green energy and green molecules for global requirements. And I feel that it is conferences like this which are important to set the dialogue running. And based at Hyderabad, we are very lucky. We have a very progressive government, a very progressive state. Hyderabad is the biotech innovation hub. It's also becoming an innovation hub in the sustainability space. At Greenco, we have partnered with the IIT Hyderabad to set up the Greenco School of Sustainability, which will tie up with global universities across the world to work closely towards indigenizing and developing sustainability solutions across the board for Indian audiences. We are, I say, a company based out of Hyderabad. We have been doing good work, and we strongly believe that this transition can be achieved sustainably and profitably, because the global green finance market is evolving. There's a lot of support, and the more important thing is these technologies have reached a scale and maturity that today the transition can be achieved while it is profitable. It's gone are the days when the solar panels was most expensive unit was costing about 17, 20, 30 rupees. Today solar is the cheapest form of new energy. The electrolyzer technology has evolved significantly. The battery storage technology has evolved significantly. Today, energy transition can be achieved. It is being achieved both sustainably and profitably because of the technological advancements. We need more support at a policy level from global leadership, especially the EU and US, which have to lead in this efforts globally. And I think we are very lucky to be in this very important times. 50 years down the line, I think this decade in which we are from 2020 to 2030 is what is going to define how the future of mankind is going to be. We are all at that inflection point where we have to take strong, definitive action if we have to have a future for our next generations. I'm happy to be part of an industry which is taking affirmative action, and I'm happy to be surrounded by people who are of similar thoughts and taking significant action in these steps. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Just to conclude, I can say that the theme is very viable. Sustainability and profitability are both possible with scale and technological innovation and firm policy support from global nations. And I'm available to debate further on this with any of you. Thank you so much.
మీరు ఎక్కడ పోయినా ఎనర్జీ సెక్టర్ పదాలు వాడుకుంటుంటారు. ఎందుకంటే థర్మల్ పవర్ మన ఫాసిల్ ఫ్యూయల్ మనం అంటాము, దాంతో చేస్తే మనకు పొల్యూషన్ పెరిగే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. పొల్యూషన్ పెరిగితే మన భవిష్యత్తులో మన పిల్లలకి బాగుంటుందని మనందరికీ తెలిసిన విషయం. దాని నుంచి బయట రావాలంటే ఏం చేయాలి అనే దాని మీద చర్చ. ఏం చేయాలంటే గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీ వాడుకోవాలి. గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీలో పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు. లైక్ సోలార్ పవర్ పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు, రిన్యూవల్ మన విండ్ పవర్లో పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు, పంప్ స్టోరేజ్ అంటారు దాని మీద హైడల్లో పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు. అటువంటి టెక్నాలజీస్ గురించి మాట్లాడడం జరుగుతుంది. మన భవిష్యత్తులో భారతదేశాన్ని వికసిత దేశంగా డిక్లేర్ చేయాలంటే, మార్చాలంటే, పెద్ద ఎకానమీ తయారు చేయాలంటే మనం గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీలోనే పోవాలని ఏంది దాదాపు ఇట్ ఈజ్ ఏ కన్క్లూజన్. సో ఆ దర్శనంలో ప్రతి ప్రభుత్వం పనిచేస్తుంది. తెలంగాణ ప్రభుత్వం కూడా గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీని ప్రోత్సహించాలని ఆ డైరెక్షన్లో పనిచేయడం జరుగుతుంది. ముఖ్యమంత్రి గారు ఆదేశాల మేరకు, అదేవిధంగా మన డిప్యూటీ చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్ గారు ఆదేశాల మేరకు మనం ఒక కొత్త రెన్యూబుల్ ఎనర్జీ పాలసీ తయారు చేస్తున్నాం. అది అడ్వాన్స్ స్టేజ్లో ఉంది. తొందరగా ఆ పాలసీ కూడా లాంచ్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. ముఖ్యమంత్రి గారు ద్వారా డిప్యూటీ చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్ గారు తొందరగా లాంచ్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. దాంట్లో కూడా ఇన్వెస్టర్స్ని ఎట్లా గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీలు ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయడానికంటే ప్రోత్సహించాలా, ఆ ప్రకారం పాలసీ అనే ప్రతి ఇన్వెస్టర్స్కి ఒక అట్రాక్టివ్ అయిన పాలసీ అది తయారు చేయడానికి ప్రణాళిక చేస్తున్నాం.
ఈవీ స్టేషన్స్ ఎట్లా ఉన్నాయి సార్?
ఈవీ స్టేషన్స్ అయితే మనము మీకు తెలుసు, రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వం ఈవీ వెహికల్స్ మీద మొత్తం రోడ్ ట్యాక్స్ తీయడం జరిగింది. ఇది ఒక ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్. ఎందుకంటే ఈవీ మీరు కొనాలంటే ఇప్పుడు రోడ్ ట్యాక్స్ మీరు భరించాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. సో దట్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ ఇస్ ఎ బిగ్ పాలసీ డిసిషన్ బై ది స్టేట్ గవర్నమెంట్. అంటే అర్లియర్ ఇట్ వాజ్ నాట్ దేర్, నౌ ఇట్ ఇస్. సో వెన్ ద వెహికల్ ఇంక్రీజ్ అండ్ వెహికల్ నెంబర్ పెరిగినప్పుడు ఈ ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్ కూడా పెరిగింది. చాలామంది ఏం చేస్తున్నారు, సొంత ఇల్లులోనే ఒక ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్ పెడుతున్నారు, వెహికల్ అయినా. కానీ బస్సెస్, ట్రక్స్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఇంట్లో పెట్టడం కొద్దిగా కష్టం. మన దగ్గర ఇప్పుడు దాదాపు 1000 ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్స్ కూడా పెంచాల్సిన అవసరం మనకు ఉంది. అది కూడా పాలసీలో దాని మీద కూడా పాలసీ పాయింట్స్ ఉంటుంది. ఈవీ ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్ ఎన్ని పెంచాలా, ఎట్లా పెంచాలా, అవన్నీ కూడా దాని మీద కూడా పాలసీలో చర్చ ఉంటుంది. అంటే మనం సస్టైనబుల్ డెవలప్మెంట్, గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీ, ఇవన్నీ పదాలు మనము ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఎక్కడ పోయినా ఎనర్జీ సెక్టర్లో ఇటువంటి పదాలు వాడుకుంటుంటారు. ఎందుకంటే థర్మల్ పవర్, మన ఫాసిల్ ఫ్యూయల్ మనం అంటాము, దాంతో చేస్తే మనకు పొల్యూషన్ పెరిగే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. పొల్యూషన్ పెరిగితే మన భవిష్యత్తులో మన పిల్లలకి బాగుండదని అందరికీ తెలిసిన విషయం. దాని నుంచి బయట రావాలంటే ఏం చేయాలి అని దాని మీద చర్చ. ఏం చేయాలంటే గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీ వాడుకోవాలా, గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీలో పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు. లైక్ సోలార్ పవర్ పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు, రెన్యూబుల్ మన విండ్ పవర్లో పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు, పంప్డ్ స్టోరేజ్ అంటారు దాని మీద హైడల్లో పొల్యూషన్ ఉండదు. అటువంటి టెక్నాలజీస్ గురించి మాట్లాడడం జరుగుతుంది. మన భవిష్యత్తులో భారతదేశాన్ని వికసిత దేశంగా డిక్లేర్ చేయాలంటే, మార్చాలంటే, పెద్ద ఎకానమీ తయారు చేయాలంటే మనం గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీలోనే పోవాలని దాదాపు ఇట్ ఈజ్ ఏ కన్క్లూజన్. సో ఆ దర్శనంలో ప్రతి ప్రభుత్వం పనిచేస్తుంది. తెలంగాణ ప్రభుత్వం కూడా గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీని ప్రోత్సహించాలని ఆ డైరెక్షన్లో పనిచేయడం జరుగుతుంది. ముఖ్యమంత్రి గారి ఆదేశాల మేరకు, అదేవిధంగా మన డిప్యూటీ చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్ గారి ఆదేశాల మేరకు మనం ఒక కొత్త రెన్యూబుల్ ఎనర్జీ పాలసీ తయారు చేస్తున్నాం. అది అడ్వాన్స్ స్టేజ్లో ఉంది. తొందరగా ఆ పాలసీ కూడా లాంచ్ చేయడం జరిగింది. ముఖ్యమంత్రి గారి ద్వారా, డిప్యూటీ సీఎం గారి ద్వారా తొందరగా లాంచ్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. దాంట్లో కూడా ఇన్వెస్టర్స్ని ఎట్లా ఈ గ్రీన్ ఎనర్జీలు ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయడానికి ఎట్లా ప్రోత్సహించాలా, ఆ ప్రకారం పాలసీ అనే ప్రతి ఇన్వెస్టర్స్కి ఒక అట్రాక్టివ్ అయిన పాలసీ అది తయారు చేయడానికి ప్రణాళిక.
సరే, ఈ స్టేషన్ ఈవీ స్టేషన్స్ ఎట్లా ఉన్నాయి?
ఈవీ స్టేషన్స్ అయితే మనము మీకు తెలుసు, రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వం ఈవీ వెహికల్స్ మీద మొత్తం రోడ్ ట్యాక్స్ తీయడం జరిగింది. ఇది ఒక ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్. ఎందుకంటే ఈవీ మీరు కొనాలంటే మీరు రోడ్ ట్యాక్స్ మీరు భరించాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. సో దట్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ ఇస్ ఎ బిగ్ పాలసీ డిసిషన్ బై ది స్టేట్ గవర్నమెంట్. అంటే earlier it was not there, now it is there. So when the vehicle increases and vehicle number పెరిగినప్పుడు ఈ ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్ కూడా పెరిగింది. చాలా మంది ఏం చేస్తున్నారు, సొంత ఇల్లులోనే ఒక ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్ పెట్టుకున్నారు, వెహికల్ అయినా ట్రూ వెహికల్ అయినా. కానీ బస్సెస్, ట్రక్స్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఇంట్లో పెట్టడం కొద్దిగా కష్టం. మన దగ్గర ఇప్పుడు దాదాపు 1000 ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఆ ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్స్ కూడా పెంచాల్సిన అవసరం మనకు ఉంది. అది కూడా పాలసీలో దాని మీద కూడా పాలసీ పాయింట్స్ ఉంటుంది. ఈవీ ఛార్జింగ్ స్టేషన్ ఎన్ని పెంచాలా, ఎట్లా పెంచాలా, అవన్నీ కూడా దాని మీద కూడా పాలసీలో చర్చ ఉంటుంది. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
This year, wherein we completely moved from coal. We use 150,000 tons of coal. This year typically end of this year will be coal free. So how we did it? It is again, every project what we did, there is a business case, there is a saving associated with that. We also do use the internal carbon pricing, ICP. Also we do internal water pricing when we wanted to go for project which is investment related to water saving. So because everything has to be, because there is a cost of doing business. So if you don't do it today, tomorrow there is a cost of the emissions what you release to the atmosphere. So that's the way we justify every business cases. And in fact, even as I said, coal as an alternative, there are multiple fuels available. The husk is one of the great example where it will be much cheaper than about 10 to 12% cheaper than the coal what we get to generate energy. Of course, another point my colleague spoke about the challenges with respect to the policies in AP and Telangana and some other states, where that also we in fact overcome, and today we are about 66% because most of our units are between AP and Telangana and few of them are outside. Where we could able to overcome with that, even in spite of those policy challenges, we went ahead with captive power generation through the recent policy which gave us the ISTS project. Thereby we could able to achieve almost about close to 66% of renewable electricity. And we are also carbon neutral, close to 60 and above percent as of now last year. And we have a target of, net zero by 2030.
Some of the panelists did mention, I think, what was a big challenge we spoke to, and we put it to supply chain standpoint. So I was in a meeting, addressing some of the talking about the impact of whether it's EU regulations or impact of the BRSR to the sector. So I think there is definitely a lot of concern in of how they can be ready for that particular change. And from that standpoint, I think this is what some of the audience did ask the question, oh, that's too much of a work for us, right? Putting, in terms of so many policies or processes or technology, all of that. And I was just mentioning an example wherein, there could be a situation wherein even for a simple vendor diligence, let's say, the supply chain vendor is exporting outside India, or also some significant players in India, the listed companies. The number of information, policies, and data which they need to give it to all the clients, that's humongous. They don't run huge data department or compliance departments and all. And more so, the way the formats of information seeking can be completely different. Right. And at the same time, this is important because the big challenge which will come in the next couple of years is with respect to data accuracy standpoint. And we are all talking about greenwashing, already there are some of the articles going on.
Or say, for example, issues that we keep on dealing with, the social aspects of it. So since you have managed a lot of work within the cement sector, you've also talked about how you have started looking at waste utilization. So not just looking at, say, for example, the downstream of my business is adding to the recycling load, but I'm using the recycling or the output or the waste of some other industry as an input material for my business. So in terms of the overall ecosystem play, do you see sustainability as cost prohibitive in certain sectors, or what at least your view is there about your own sector? So would you have some insights on that?
So as I said in my last address, for us and in general, the key for me is forget about being prohibitive. It has to be profitable. Let me give you 2-3 examples as to how you need to work on it. But work on the tech, work on the system, work on the processes, and not compromise profitability. Let me give you 3 examples of how this is, how we have managed to do it. One, we use a lot of vehicles. We use a lot of vehicles across our mines for transportation, reverse logistics of RDF, for reverse logistics of flash, slag. We have a lot of transportation. Now, how do we make this sustainable? For me, the easiest answer was EV. And I can again proudly say we are the first cement company where we are actually using EV vehicles made by a small company based out of Coimbatore in our mining operations. Mining operations are probably the toughest terrains, the largest quantum, but we are using EV trucks, and again, it is profitable for me. My ROI is less than 3 years. The second, today most of our vehicles, we don't use diesel. We actually use biodiesel. We have, as an option, it is 10 to 20% cheaper than the diesel. And all my vehicles are today using biodiesel. When we are talking of replacement of coal, we are replacing coal and pet coke with various materials such as RDF, such as plastics from industries. We take industrial waste, we take hazardous waste, we create our recipes and use it. Again, today the cost of the material, I'm not taking the total cost of ownership of the material, the impact it has on the cement, on the linings, on the everything else. Just purely looking at the cost of the material versus the cost of the coal, we are at 50% saving. And that's the reality of life. If sustainability is not leading to profitability, it will not fly.
That's lovely. Let's also look at how the compliances have kind of gone on. So we started with business responsibility, which was more of a qualitative documentation. We moved into BRSR. Initially for the first year it was voluntary, and then it was as a compliance disclosure requirement for the industry. And now we are moving into the regime of BRSR code, wherein we are not just looking at, say, for example, people outlook into the overall stakeholder ecosystem, but we have to talk about our supply chain to the extent of 75%. And going forward, it is also taking in the requirement for third-party attestation. So we will be reasonable assurance from the coming years in a cascading manner for top 150, top 250, top 500, and finally top 1,000 companies. How do you see it, Mr. Ali, when we look at the increased compliance requirements within the ESG ecosystem?
Yeah, I think most panelists for their inspiring perspectives on
embedding sustainability into business strategies. We also extend our deepest appreciation to you, Mr. Injit Singh, for guiding the discussion so thoughtfully. I would now request Mr. Sheikh Ismail from Greenco Group to come and, as a gesture of appreciation, saplings to each of our esteemed panelists. Just step forward for the group photo, please.
It contributes about less than about 30%. So in our case, it is 30 and 70. That's the ratio which we have. So what we do is we are careful with onboarding of our partners, and we set the expectations. We conduct trainings. We call them, some of them as strategic supplier partners. We train them, we educate them, because everyone takes care of their scope 1 and 2 vision, then there is no scope 3 in the world. That's the way it is. So all of us are responsible, and I think we can make a change, and we can fast track the decarbonization and make this world a better place to live for all of us and for the generations to come.
Thank you very much. Sujit, let me come back to you. Since
bottles for Coke, another material instead of plastic for the bottles, A, and B, the recycling that you mentioned, how does that supply chain work? Are you collecting the Coke bottles from the municipality, and you have your own recycling plants? Are you giving it to somebody else? How does that chain work?
Okay, thank you. Plastics model. Just want to say that plastic is not a harmful material if you do it in sustainable management. But again, yes, now if you see the new regulation which is coming up in the next year, you have to use the recycled plastic content. That is 30% requirement is there, and in that direction company has already started to meet the requirement, which is 30%. And after 5 to 6 years, you see all bottle will be the recycled plastic bottle. Which bottle you see on the table, after 5 to 6 years, every year you will find the all bottle is a recycled plastic bottle. That means when it will recycle, the virgin plastic will reduce, the recycled plastic will happen. So this is number one. Number two question, whatever the plastics we are collecting from the market, we are working with our EPR partners, those who are working in the entire part of the India. They are collecting the material for us and collaborating with the recyclers, and they are giving us the credits. And we have a stringent audit process through which we are monitoring how much plastic we have sent to the market and how much plastic we have collected irrespective of any brand. That is a category of plastics. Hope I have answered your 2 questions. Thank you.
thank you. We are on the top of that. Yeah. Maybe we can take the questions offline.
Your problems. So, just wanted to understand from the panel members, on an average, like how soon or how long does sustainability convert into profit, or sustainability efforts convert into profits, and how do we report it? When you're giving the report to the investors. So, how do you convince them that these are the sustainability efforts that we've taken, and within so and so time period, this will result in profit. So, is there anything like that? First of all, just wanted to understand.
While that each individual's action, when you want to set up EV trucks, when you want to set up solar panels, when you want to take waste, every single truck, every single ton of material, every single vehicle that enters has to be profitable. I am very clear on that. You think I will make money in the future, doesn't work. according to me, sustainability truly works when every step along the way is profitable. I'll just reiterate one simple difference, and that's where government comes extremely handy. Solar panels. None of us ever use solar panels. I was one of the first installation. I had one first installation way back at 17 rupees tariff from the solar panel, and I have seen the journey from 17 rupees to 2.5 rupees. Private parties come when it is profitable. Else it's government's role and somebody else's role. Definitely not mine.
Just adding to these points before closing, I think time is short. I think everybody were talking about what is the country target, what is the state target, what is the nation target. But there is some target for the individual. Do you think that is the individual targets? So we are talking how country is going, how organization is going, what global is going. A simple question just throwing to the public. If you are talking about net zero, and today I think 100 people are sitting here. How many people have used public transport? Please take up your hand. Public transport. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of 100, 6 people are taking the public transport. So it's not a question, it is you. We have to think, start from sustainability for ourselves. You have to do the net zero, start from us, start from you. Then we'll think of country, then of state, then of organization like that. Thank you.
It is wonderful to hear from each panel. Thank you very much, audience. Thank you very much, participants. Let me give the floor back to the organizers.
One more, please.